At the end of a winding riverbed road sits a house that time seems to have forgotten. Built in 1892, the house on Hillcrest Lane has a quiet, watchful air. Before the Thompsons arrived, it had already changed hands 8 times, each family leaving a little sooner than the last. Neighbors kept their distance, trading stories like cautionary tales. They spoke of a woman's silhouette in the attic window, of whispers that sounded like secrets on the wind, and doors that swung shut in still, breathless air. Most dismissed it as small-town gossip, the kind of lore that clings to old places like mildew. But that all changed in the early 1990s. James Thompson was an electrician looking for a fresh start. After a difficult divorce, he saw the dilapidated house on Hillcrest Lane not as a wreck, but as a project, a kind of therapy built from wood and nails. He bought it for a steal and moved in with his 11-year-old daughter, Mara. The plan was simple: fix the place up, and in doing so, maybe fix themselves too. But the house had other ideas. The strange occurrences began almost immediately. The first week, James's tools started a bizarre migration. He locked them securely in his toolbox at night, only to find them scattered in the most illogical places the next morning. A heavy wrench would be sitting in the pristine bathtub. A pair of pliers would be perched precariously on a rafter high up in the attic. James, exhausted from long days of renovation and long nights of worry, chalked it up to sleep deprivation. He was tired, stressed, and forgetful. But Mara had a different theory. With the chilling certainty only a child can possess, she told him, the house is hungry. Soon, they both began to hear it. At night, when the town outside was silent, the house would come alive. A slow, deliberate footfall would echo from the upstairs hallway. It wasn't the sound of a house settling. It was a rhythmic pacing, one set of steps, lingering, as if someone were lost in thought or waiting. James, being a practical man, set up house cameras, determined to find a rational explanation. But the footage showed nothing. Empty hallways, still air, and the unshakable feeling that they were not alone. One night, a neighbor, walking his dog, reported hearing a woman's voice humming a soft, unfamiliar lullaby from an upstairs window. It was a melody neither James nor Mara had ever heard. The true chilling turn came through Mara's art. 3 months after they moved in, she began to draw. Over and over again, she sketched the same haunting image. A small, stooped figure with deep, hollow eyes standing in a doorway. Her bedroom walls slowly disappeared behind these drawings, each one a silent, repeating warning. Mara's sleep became a battleground. She'd wake up screaming, her voice raw with terror, about the lady at the top of the stairs. She became obsessed with the attic, insisting, pleading with her father to keep the hatch bolted shut. James, seeing his daughter's distress, attributed it to the stress of the move and the divorce. He was trying to hold his family together, and he believed this was just a symptom of their shared trauma. He was wrong. The house showed its true power one brutal December night. A blizzard had descended, wrapping Hillcrest Lane in a thick blanket of white. James was jolted awake by a violent shaking, as if the entire structure had been struck by an immense force. Heavy thuds rolled through the walls like bowling balls, and the sound of glass chiming, as if being tapped by invisible fists, filled the air. Terrified, he ran from his room to check on Mara. What he found was impossible. Every single interior door in the house, bedrooms, bathrooms, closets, was not just closed, but locked from the inside. And then he saw it. The attic hatch, which he knew, he was certain he had bolted, was wide open, a dark square gaping at the ceiling. Lying on the top step of the staircase was a single perfect footprint. It was small, as if made by a child or a small woman, and it looked wet, molded into the wood dust as if from thick, dark mud. He raced to the back porch, his heart pounding, but the deep snow outside was undisturbed. There were no tracks leading to or from the house. Something was inside with them. In the weeks that followed, Mara changed. She stopped screaming and started whispering. She began having conversations with an unseen companion she called Aunt Lillian. Mara claimed Lillian told her stories about the old days and gave her warnings, telling the family not to take the wrong things. When James pressed her for details, Mara explained that Lillian had died in the house a long time ago and she needed their help. Shaken, James dove into the town's historical archives. He found what he was looking for in a yellowed newspaper clipping from 1903. A widow named Lillian Harrow had been found deceased in the attic of the very same house. The official cause of death was listed simply as misadventure. Later, while replacing some insulation, James found her name, Lillian, carved faintly into one of the attic's old wooden beams. One evening, James came home from work to a scene of pure orchestrated chaos. All the living room furniture had been dragged into the center of the room and stacked into a bizarre pyramid facing the fireplace. Mara was sitting bolt upright in a chair, her mouth wide open in a silent scream, her eyes fixed on something he couldn't see. The heat in the room was suffocating. The thermostat had been cranked to 90 degrees. The air was thick with the smell of wet earth and a cloyingly sweet floral scent, like lilac. On the fireplace mantel, where their family photos once stood, lay a small antique silver brooch he had never seen before. He felt a cold dread creep up his spine when he realized he recognized it. It was the same brooch pinned to the chest of the stooped figure in Mara's drawings. After that night, the neighbors started talking. They confessed that since the Thompsons had moved in, strange things had been happening all along the street. Their own lights would flicker in empty rooms. Their radios would crackle with static that would briefly swell into an old-fashioned tune before snapping off. The town's pastor came to bless the house, not once, but twice. Each time, the disturbances would quiet down for a few days, only to return with even greater intensity. James installed more sophisticated motion-activated cameras. The recordings were mostly nights of digital snow and static, but then one night he captured it. A shadowy, indistinct shape, a dark smear with no discernible limbs, appeared to inch its way along the hallway wall, crawling slowly, deliberately, toward Mara's bedroom door. The footage became a local legend. Skeptics called it a trick of light or a camera glitch. The believers swore the handheld tremors in the recording matched the exact moments the audio picked up the sound of phantom footsteps. Those who watched it claimed it left them feeling dizzy, chilled to the bone. Within a year, the house had won. James's work began taking him away from home more and more, an escape he desperately needed. Mara's grades plummeted. She refused to sleep in her own room, instead camping out on the living room couch, wrapped in blankets and clutching the silver brooch. Finally, James gave up. He moved Mara in with relatives in another state and put the house on the market. But no one wanted it. Prospective buyers who toured the property would leave abruptly, complaining of sudden chills, waves of nausea, and an overwhelming sense of being watched. Today, the house on Hillcrest Lane sits empty and unsold. The police still get occasional calls from frantic neighbors reporting lights or noises, but they always find the house secured, with no signs of an intruder and no logical explanation. The attic door is boarded shut now, but locals say if you shine a light just right, you can still see the faint outline of a single small footprint in the dust on the top stair. Kids in town dare each other to touch the porch rail, but most lose their nerve. Sometimes they say, you can see something glinting on the mantelpiece through the grimy window, an old tarnished silver brooch left exactly where Mara placed it. And people still whisper that on cold winter nights, when the wind howls, if you listen very carefully, you can hear a lullaby drifting from the house. It's a sad, gentle tune, a song that those who've heard it say gets into your bones and never ever lets go. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more tales from the shadows.